The story of the swapped prince. In the distant kingdom of Orléans, ruled by a wise king and a kind queen, there lived a small prince named Ethan. He was clever, mischievous, and loved by all who knew him. One day, the king went hunting in the forest but, tragically, became lost. After wandering for hours in the dense woods, he stumbled upon an old woman, none other than the wicked witch Islay. "I can guide you back to the palace," she said. "But in exchange, the first thing you touch when you return must be mine." The king, reluctantly agreeing, assumed that the first thing he would encounter would be his beloved dog. However, upon returning, it was not the dog that ran to greet him but the young prince himself. The king was horrified and quickly explained the situation to the queen. They couldn't let Ethan fall into the hands of the wicked witch. After much deliberation, the queen came up with a plan. They would secretly swap the prince with a young orphan girl named Scarlet. Ethan would be sent to live with a family of loyal farmers, while Scarlet would be raised as the prince in the palace. Though Scarlet was just a child, she agreed to the plan, understanding the necessity of keeping the prince safe. The queen and king made sure to care for Scarlet as their own daughter, preparing her for a life in the palace, even though she was unaware of her true identity. A year passed, and the witch Islay returned to the palace, demanding that the king keep his promise. Scarlet, now having been trained to act as the prince, was taken by Islay. The witch, unaware of the deception, was satisfied with the girl's appearance. Meanwhile, Ethan grew up in the countryside, raised by his adoptive parents, who received regular gifts from the king. These were not ordinary gifts, but treasures meant to ensure Ethan's safety and comfort. Years passed, and Ethan grew into a strong, capable young man. He lived a simple life, helping his foster parents with farming and learning the ways of the land. However, deep down, he always felt a sense of something missing. His past, his real identity, haunted him in quiet moments. One day, after helping a family in need, Ethan's adoptive parents revealed the truth. They handed him a letter left by the king that explained everything. Ethan was the true Prince of Orléans, switched at birth to protect him from the wicked witch Islay. Devastated and confused, Ethan decided to return to the kingdom and confront his true identity. He made preparations for the long journey, determined not just to reclaim his place as the prince, but also to rescue the kingdom from the witch's dark influence. Upon returning to the palace, Ethan found it a shadow of its former self. The once grand halls were now dark and ominous, under the witch's spell. The king and queen welcomed him with open arms, but their faces were filled with regret. "We made a terrible mistake, my son," the queen said, tears in her eyes. "We did what we thought was best, but we have hurt you and the kingdom." The king also spoke, his voice heavy with guilt. "You are the rightful heir to the throne. We only sought to protect you from the witch's wrath. But now, it is time for you to stand up and save the kingdom." Ethan, though angered by the deception, knew that his parents had acted out of love and fear. His task was now clear. He would not only reclaim his throne but also protect the kingdom from the witch's malevolent control. Ethan prepared for the dangerous journey into the forest, where Islay resided. The witch's influence had spread throughout the kingdom, and the palace was no longer safe. The king gave Ethan a sword, a cloak to protect against magic, and an old map of the forest where Islay was believed to be hiding. "Be careful, my son," the king warned. "The forest is full of traps, illusions, and dark magic. But you must go. The kingdom depends on you." With those words, Ethan set out, determined to face whatever dangers lay ahead. As he ventured deeper into the forest, he encountered strange creatures and faced numerous trials. The further he went, the more he felt the weight of his destiny pressing on his shoulders. Ethan finally reached the witch's lair, a dark, forbidding castle hidden deep in the forest. There, he discovered that Scarlet, now grown into a beautiful young woman, had been raised in captivity, forced to pretend to be the prince. She had been under Islay's control for years, living in fear and isolation. While searching for a way to free her, Ethan discovered that Islay was using a powerful gem to maintain her immortality and dark magic. The gem radiated with a bright light, and Ethan realized that destroying it would break the witch's hold over the kingdom and free Scarlet. Ethan vowed to do whatever it took to destroy the gem and end Islay's reign of terror. During their time together, Ethan and Scarlet grew close. The loneliness they had both experienced over the years brought them together, and the bond between them deepened into love. Scarlet, though still in captivity, found solace in Ethan's presence. She shared her feelings of longing and regret for the life she could have had, and Ethan promised her that he would free her from the witch's curse. That night, they spoke of their dreams of a future where they could live freely, without fear or magic. Their love became the driving force behind their quest to defeat Islay. Together, Ethan and Scarlet devised a plan to escape the witch's clutches. They knew they had to move quickly and secretly, for the witch would not easily allow them to leave. The castle was filled with magical traps and enchanted guards, making their task even more difficult. Ethan used his knowledge of the forest and magic to create a plan. He secretly gathered supplies, a cloak for invisibility, a map of hidden passages, and several enchanted stones to counteract the witch's spells. Scarlet, although frightened, trusted Ethan completely. They had to act before Islay returned. The night they chose to escape, the witch discovered their disappearance. Enraged, Islay summoned a horde of dark creatures to chase them down. Ethan and Scarlet fled into the forest, using their wits and the magical stones to stay one step ahead. But the chase was not without its dangers. The witch's creatures were relentless, and they would stop at nothing to capture them. In the midst of the pursuit, Ethan and Scarlet had to face wild beasts, navigate treacherous terrain, and overcome their own fears. Despite the odds, they pressed on, knowing that their only hope lay in reaching the palace and destroying the gem. After days of running, Ethan and Scarlet finally discovered the location of the gem, the heart of the forest. Hidden within an ancient temple, Islay had hidden it well, knowing that anyone who sought it would be met with death. As they approached the temple, the witch's magic grew stronger, and the air around them crackled with dark energy. Ethan could feel the power of the gem radiating, and he knew that this was their last chance to end Islay's reign. Using his knowledge of the witch's magic, Ethan began to break the enchantments protecting the gem. Scarlet, her heart filled with both fear and hope, stood by him, ready to face whatever came next. Islay arrived at the temple, furious and determined to stop them. A fierce battle ensued, with the witch casting powerful spells and Ethan using all of his strength to fight back. Scarlet, determined to help, stood by Ethan's side, using her own magic to protect him. The battle raged on, and the temple shook as the two forces collided. But in the end, it was Ethan's will that prevailed. With a final strike, he shattered the gem, releasing a burst of light that obliterated the witch's power. Islay let out a scream of defeat as her magic dissipated into the air, and the kingdom was freed from her control. Ethan and Scarlet finally arrived at the heart of Islay's domain, the dark and oppressive forest where the witch's magic ruled. They knew this was the final battle. The witch appeared before them, her sinister laughter echoing through the trees. "You are nothing but children," Islay sneered. "I am the master here, and you will never defeat me." Ethan gripped the sword given to him by his father. "Your reign ends today." Islay. With a roar, the witch unleashed dark magic, lightning and shadows crashing toward them. But Ethan, with Scarlet's help, fought back. As they battled, Ethan remembered the magic from the old map. He raised his sword high, sending a surge of energy that weakened the witch's power. Scarlet seized the moment and grabbed the glowing gem around Islay's neck, shattering it. The witch screamed as her power vanished, and she was consumed by a burst of light, leaving nothing but ashes. With Islay gone, the forest seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Ethan and Scarlet made their way back to the kingdom, where the king and queen embraced Ethan with joy and gratitude. "You've returned to us, my son," the king said. "You are the rightful heir." But Ethan, though now the prince, knew that he couldn't do this alone. He turned to Scarlet, who had stood by him through it all. "You're part of this kingdom, too," he said. Together, they led Orléans into a new era, filled with peace and hope. Ethan had not only reclaimed his birthright but had also found true friendship and family in Scarlet. As the new king, he was ready for the challenges ahead, knowing that with Scarlet by his side, they could face anything.